The topic we'll start out with today is something that some of you may have heard discussed quite a bit this summer, whether it's been here or other places, and that's the issue of glyphosate-resistant kochia. Certainly one of the number one issues for many North Dakotans this summer. So a lot of what we've been focusing on with this trial behind me and some other research we have is looking at different ways to manage kochia, especially in soybeans, as that's going to be one of the more problematic crops for getting control of the kochia. Now, before we can look at management, we have to figure out what the problem is. Why is it here? Now, the number one thing that people will point to with the glyphosate-resistant kochia is the abundance of Roundup-ready crops in our cropping systems. And that definitely is the reason that it's around here, but that's not the reason it started here. The issue of the kochia, as well as some of the other glyphosate-resistant weeds, did not start here, it moved here. And I think that's one key distinguishing fact that we have to realize in our management decisions. Because it moves so readily throughout the environment, we really have to change the way we manage it as well. And one of the most important aspects of managing the resistant kochia is keeping an eye on those border areas, whether it be the margins of the field or those saline seeps. That's where the kochia is going to do really well. That's where it's going to produce a lot of seed and spread the resistance trait to other kochia growing in the area. That's where the problems begin. I know when Jeff Stockler was at NDSU, he would always talk about removing that one resistant weed from the field. I don't know that I've ever seen one resistant weed in the field. It always winds up moving into the field with many resistant plants growing throughout the field. And so you have to not only consider economic thresholds for making an herbicide application, but you also have to think about the impacts of your management decisions next year, because if you have more resistant plants the next year, you're going to wind up with a bigger problem and more costly problem in the future. So behind me is one of the things that I'd like people to consider, especially with soybeans and areas that might be challenging to get into in the spring. We're looking at fall and spring herbicide applications. The key there is that we're applying some of the herbicides in the fall, and that is to create a bigger window of application for the products, and then preserve the product's activity through the winter months when there's no soil microbial activity. And then in the springtime you can focus on planting. And with the fall applications, there were a few of them that worked out pretty well. But we also compared that to some of the same products in the spring, and many of the spring products worked just fine. The biggest difference being the duration of the residual. These spring products did have so far lasted a little bit longer than the fall applied ones. But either way, we got pretty good initial control through soybean planting, which is the key right there. So I'm going to take that one step further. If you have a very thick kochia population that is resistant to glyphosate, my opinion is it's going to be a three-pass operation. You're going to have to put down a potent pre-emergent product, as listed on the second page, of your choice. Then you're going to have to follow that up early post-emergent. Once the kochia starts emerging, that is, apply Basagran or any of the generic equivalents like Result and so on, because that's a different mode of action than you'll be using with your pre-emergent package. And the pre-emergent package hopefully includes more than one product as well, simply to, again, increase the amount of modes of action we're using, and rather than limiting it to just a PPO herbicide. And then if necessary, we might have to make a third pass, applying something like Flexstar, Cadet, or one of the other post-emergent PPO herbicide options. Hopefully one or two passes will be enough, and I would definitely recommend including glyphosate in those mixes as well to control the other weeds and nothing else, or some of the susceptible kochia that may yet be in the field. So the question is, I guess, how the soil texture might affect some of the products that we apply in the fall. And you know, right now, this is the only place we've been testing it. We will have 2 additional locations this next year, but certainly some of the products can have a very long residual, depending on your soil texture, and that's something to consider. And note the fall application of Spartan in particular on this list was at 8 ounces, which is very likely beyond what a lot of people would normally consider. So it is something we're going to continue to look at as far as a soybean injury standpoint, and what we can get by with as far as kochia control as well. Sure, if I had to suggest a few products, the Spartan really looks like the go-to for a fall application right now, but something like Valor or Fierce pull their weight as well. If we're talking about the spring, I would definitely have a product that includes metribuzin in it. Something like Authority MTZ or Spartan on its own still did just fine as well. But the metribuzin is not a PPO herbicide, so I would really strongly advise including something along those lines, or one of the Zidua containing products like Zidua Fierce or Anthem. You would have to check there's so many products out there, and a lot of them have generic equivalents. You just have to check with your provider as far as what makes most sense for you.